Hey there, it's me Eden. Welcome to Crossdressing Adventure Stories. Today I'm going to share with you crossdressing adventure story called Hidden Camera to Catch Crossdressing, brought to you by Alan Smith. So, if you're new to the channel, then please consider subscribing and be a part of our inclusive community. I knew it had to be David who was doing something with my clothes. It had to be, as he was the only person apart from myself and Julie who had access to the house. Let me explain. I am a dental nurse. I'm 37 years old, divorced for the past 6 years, and I now have a relationship with my live-in partner Julie. I consider myself to be reasonably attractive. I'm quite tall at 5'11" with a trim figure. I keep myself fit by going to the gym 3 times a week where I work out and also do some weight training. David is my lodger. He's 26, single, and stands 5'7". He's been with me for about 6 months, and he is actually a nice guy, and best of all, he accepts my lifestyle and gets on well with Julie. He's absolutely no trouble, and he even helps me around the house. Sometimes he even has a meal ready for us if he gets home early. The only thing bugging me is why he should be going through my things. Oh, I should mention it's only items I place in the laundry basket. To be sure I wasn't becoming paranoid, I started to list the order in which I dropped items in, and I would then recheck when I got home. To cut a long story short, I mentioned this to Julie, who works in research for a large multinational. Being technical, she came up with the idea of installing a concealed video camera. I felt a bit guilty, but when we saw the results we were both very surprised. There was David pulling items out of the laundry and putting them on. He was dressing up in my things. On the occasion we recorded him putting on panties, girdle, long full slip, and one of my uniform dresses. Once dressed, he kept looking at himself in the mirror. I looked across at Julie. The little tart, just look at him admiring himself in the mirror. Julie smiled at me. You got to admit though, he does look cute. I wouldn't mind getting him into bed between us. Looking her in the eye. Since when did you start fancying men? She smiled back. Since he put a dress on. And don't tell me you wouldn't like to get on top of him. I had to admit that the sight of him in a dress did turn me on. I think I would enjoy pinning him down and slowly forcing him to submit before having my way with him. We continued to watch the video, and when he came to take them off again, we saw him struggle unzipping the back of the dress. I looked at Julie. What a pity he managed to unzip it. Just think, if the zip got jammed he wouldn't be able to remove it. She suddenly had a wicked smile on her face. We could soon arrange that. She went on to tell me about a new 2-part adhesive her company had developed. Apparently it goes on and dries and only bonds once the 2 parts come together for a few minutes. I was still confused, so she explained, we coat the top 3 inches of the zip. Once he zips it up, bingo, he is well and truly stuck in the dress. That zip will never unfasten again. I smiled. Well, he certainly will be, and if he puts a slip under it he's stuck in that as well. She went on to say, why not sew the flap at the back of the skirt up and make the dress really tight? One thing about the uniform dresses I buy for work are they are made from a very strong nylon fabric with no stretch, and all seams are triple sewn. Needless to say, you would have difficulty trying to rip the dress off. We set everything up and loaded the laundry basket with panties, 3 long full slips, a full girdle with the crotch sewn up, and the long white uniform dress. The girdle was Julie's idea. I chose an old one I no longer wore because it was too tight on me. It was quite a heavy girdle with bra and flaps that fastened under the crotch. Well, not anymore, they didn't stitch it up. We had sewn up the split in the skirt and put some binding tape in the hem, so even if he tried to kick his way out it wouldn't split. As I mentioned, the dress was made from a heavy-duty nylon and was very strong. The trap was set now, all we had to do was wait. We loaded all the items in the laundry basket on Friday morning and Julie and I went off to work. All day long all I could think about was David and kept wondering if he would take the bait. When we returned to the house at around 5:30, David's car was in the drive. He was nowhere to be seen, so I guessed he was in his room. I went upstairs and into the bathroom. I locked the door and looked through the laundry basket. My heart missed a beat when I found almost everything had gone, including the tights I had put in there. I went back down and gave Julie the okay sign and she mouthed a silent yes. Time to find our little friend. We both climbed the stairs with me shouting, "David, are you up here?" No response. I went to his bedroom door and tried it, locked. "David, are you in there?" No reply, so I started banging on the door. "David, are you in there? Are you all right?" A pause and then he spoke in a quiet voice, "I have a little problem at the moment." I smiled at Julie and thought to myself, I'd say you had a big problem and wondered how he was going to talk his way out of this one. "Well, open the door, David, and let me see if I can help solve your problem for you." Suddenly I heard his voice. "I can't do that, Anne. I've done something terrible." We both bent double, stifling our laughter. "David, what have you done that's so bad?" Silence and then, "I don't know how to tell you and I feel so ashamed. I feel so bad." We both giggled to ourselves, but now I was beginning to feel a little sorry for him. "David, please tell me what you've done that is so bad." Silence and then, "I've taken some of your clothes from the laundry basket." We doubled up, but I could now hear him sobbing and that worried me. "David, let's talk about it. Why don't you just put the items back and let's talk about it?" Another pause and more quiet sobbing. "I can't put them back and because I'm wearing them." I looked at Julie who, like me, was no longer finding this funny. "David, please just take everything off and then put everything back." A pause and then, "That's the problem and I can't undo the zip, it's stuck and won't budge." Again the sobbing started and both Julie and I were now getting concerned. "David, please open the door, I promise I won't be mad at you." I could hear the sobbing, and "I don't think I can face you anymore, I just feel like ending it all." All of a sudden alarm bells started ringing, our little joke was turning very sour and it was now me that was panicking. "David, please explain yourself, you haven't done anything stupid, tell me what you've done." I could now hear him crying softly, "I've taken that bottle of sleeping tablets from the bathroom, please, and just leave me alone." Oh shit, this was now beyond a joke. Both Julie and I were now on our feet banging on the door. "David, open this door now." Julie, who is quite a big girl at 6 foot, suddenly hit the door with her shoulder and the catch on the inside just gave way. David was sat on the bed wearing the dress with a handful of tablets and as soon as he saw us he pushed the lot in his mouth. Julie was fast, she leapt at him and grabbed him by the throat to prevent him swallowing. She held him face down on the bed with his head hanging over the side. He was struggling and trying to prise her hands away, so I jumped on the bed and sat astride his back. I took hold of his wrists and held them behind his back, wedging his elbows down between my knees and his side. Julie was shouting at him, "David, spit them out, I am going to keep the pressure up on your neck until you do." I joined in, "David, unless you want to finish up in dressed as you are, you better spit them out." Eventually, he caved in and the tablets were spit onto the carpet. She opened his mouth to check and by now he was totally spent, and as soon as we were satisfied that all the tablets were out, I climbed off him and turned him over, pulling him up the bed and resting his head on the pillow. He was white as a sheet and sobbing again now. "And I'm going to get some water for him, just make sure he doesn't try anything else before I get back." Julie disappeared downstairs as I climbed on the bed, sitting with my back against the headboard. I took hold of him from behind, my arms around his chest, and pulled him up so he was between my legs. He struggled a little, so I tightened my grip on him, squeezing him closer to me and wrapping my legs around him. "David, just relax, I'm not going to release you." He soon realized I was not about to let go of him, so he stopped struggling. I continued trying to comfort him. "David, just relax, everything is going to be fine. I promise I will make everything right for you." I felt terrible that what started as a joke had so nearly turned so tragically wrong. How could I be so stupid and insensitive? I was really cross with myself. I looked down at him wearing my uniform dress, and he looked so innocent. Julie returned with the water, and I lifted him into a sitting position while she placed the glass to his lips. It took time, but eventually we managed to get it down him. I was still trying to calm him down. He looked at me, still tearful. "I'm so sorry, and I know I shouldn't have touched your things, but I just couldn't help myself. You must think I'm sick for doing this. I just feel so dirty at the moment, I just wanted to die." I tried to get the dress off, but it was stuck and I was trapped. I pulled him closer. "Hush now, David, don't think about it, just relax, and I will get the dress off you in a few minutes. And don't worry about it. I don't think badly of you, I promise." He was slowly calming down. "And I think it's best I just leave tonight, so I can't cause you any more trouble. I will never bother you again." I pulled him even tighter to me. "You will do no such thing, David. You are going nowhere. We are going to work this out together. Now if you want me to release you out of the dress, you better give me your word that you won't do anything stupid again. Otherwise you stay fastened in the dress. What's it to be?" He looked at me. "Okay, I promise I won't do anything stupid." I moved so I could get at the zip and pretended to try release it. "I don't know what you've done, David, but the only way you are going to get this dress off is if I unpick the stitches securing the zip." Julie fetched a small craft knife and I started unpicking. It took me 10 minutes before I had the dress off him, leaving him standing in my slip. I then helped him off with this and allowed him to go to the bathroom to remove the rest. Julie had run him a bath and I told him to get in. I entered and found him sitting in it with fragrant bubbles all around. Kneeling down besides the tub, I proceeded to wash his hair and his back. He didn't have much of a beard, but I took a disposable razor and shaved him. "Right, finish off and you can get dressed." I went back into my bedroom and started looking through the wardrobe, eventually selecting a silky dress in a silver gray with a long full skirt. Julie looked at me. "Oh, you're not thinking what I think you're thinking, are you?" I smiled back at her. "Oh yes, I am, and little Cinders is going to the ball." When I got everything ready and laid out on the bed, I went and stood outside the bathroom door. He came out with a towel wrapped around him and turned towards his bedroom. I took his arm, "Not that way, David," and steered him to my room. Once inside, he saw what I had laid out and panicked, turning to the door only to find Julie blocking his way. I came up to him and placed my hands on his shoulders. "David, I don't fully understand why you did what you did today, but I am going to try. So to help me, I want you to put these clothes on, but this time we are going to finish the job. If you want to dress as a woman, fine, but we will do it properly. Now we will turn our backs while you put these panties on." I handed him a pair of silky white panties. He looked down but still didn't move. "David, you can put them on or we will do it for you. Either way, you will finish up wearing them now. What's it to be?" He nodded his head and we turned around. I then started with a matching bra which Julie stuffed with a couple of scarves. Next came tights and then a camisole followed by a long full slip. Because he had also worn a slip earlier, I suspected he had a thing for nylon, so I picked out a long full petticoat that had 3 layers of soft nylon with net in between and would give some fullness to the dress. I put this on him and then lowered the dress over him. Once he was zipped up, I led him over to the vanity for Julie to do his hair. Julie was quite a good hairdresser, and since his hair was quite long, she soon had him looking more feminine. It was my turn now to do his makeup, and that took me 20 minutes. By this time I was actually enjoying what we were doing. I was determined to create the right image. By the time we had finished, his own mother wouldn't have recognized him. Clip-ons plus a necklace finished him off, and only the shoes remained. I picked out a pair with medium heels and strapped them onto his feet. When I finally allowed him to see himself, he just stood there frozen to the spot. He looked gorgeous, and suddenly my lesbian feeling rose to the surface. God, I could have jumped on him there and then. I know Julie felt the same. I could see it in her eyes. My mind was going wild. I had an idea of what I wanted, but all the pieces were not in place as yet. I showed none of this to David. I just very calmly told him that we were going to send out for some food and have a nice dinner together, just us girls. We both look like tramps next to you, so we are all going to make an effort tonight. Now you go down with Julie while I find something to wear. Julie walked him downstairs while I got changed into one of my evening dresses, a sexy chiffon number in black. I went down while Julie went up to change. Julie seldom wore dresses or skirts, but tonight I insisted she did to make David feel more at ease. When she had gone, I handed David a glass of wine as he sat very subdued on the sofa. 10 minutes later, Julie came down in a dark blue satin gown, looking very sexy. She saw my smile as she entered and came over to whisper in my ear, "Later, darling." David still sat with his head bowed, his hands well away from his dress, as if he was frightened to feel the material. I took his glass and put it down before pulling him to his feet. "David, I want you to sit down properly this time. Smooth your dress before you sit." I showed him how, and he clumsily copied what I had done. "Now fluff your dress out and cross your legs." I watched him, and again it was as if he was afraid to touch the dress, almost embarrassed. I shook my head. "David, you look fantastic in that dress. It's now your dress, I give it to you, so look as if you enjoy wearing it and don't spoil our little party." I gave him his wine back and sat next to him, putting my arm around him. "David, I want you to stop feeling so down and miserable. I know this has been a shock to you, but at least accept that it's out in the open now, well, at least as far as the three of us, so start to enjoy yourself. If you carry on like this, do you know what I am going to do with you?" He looked at me with his sad eyes, shaking his head. "If you carry this on much longer, I am going to drag you out to the car, drive you a couple of miles down the road, and then let you make your own way back." His face filled with terror. "And please, no, please, I will try, I promise, but please try and understand this is not easy for me. Putting your things on in private was one thing, but dressing like this in front of you and Julie is another. I really do feel like some freak at the moment. If I could just get my own clothes and walk out of here now, I would be gone." I held him tighter to me, and Julie knelt in front of him holding his hands. "David, we will help you, but forget about leaving here tonight, or tomorrow. No, you are staying here with Julie and me, and you had better get used to what you're wearing because this does not finish tonight. Now come on, let's be friends, we both love you very much, you know." I kissed him, and so did Julie. The meal arrived and we sat down together as he finished his second glass of wine. He seemed to loosen up a little, and after we finished eating, I put some slow mood music on and asked him to dance. He was reluctant at first, so I dragged him to his feet, and assuming the male role, I took him in my arms and pushed his head down onto my breast. "Now just keep your head there and let me lead." He suddenly seemed to relax, and towards the end of the second song, Julie butted in. "You're not going to hog him all night, are you?" She took over and held him close as she slowly danced with him. Eventually it was bedtime and we all went upstairs. I followed David into his room and helped remove his dress and petticoat. I told him to keep everything else on, and then I slipped a long satin nightgown over him and tied it in the back. He got into bed and Julie entered. As we had planned, Julie sat on one side and me on the other. On my signal, we both grabbed his wrists and fastened them to two Velcro cuffs I had attached to the bed frame earlier. He tried to break free, but he had no chance against the two of us. He was now held with his wrists fastened to either side of the bed. He started protesting, but I put my finger to his lips. "I'm sorry I have to do this, David, but I wouldn't sleep if you were free to possibly harm yourself once we left you. Also, I know you will still be here when I wake up. So sleep well and we will see you in the morning." We pulled the quilt up over him and both kissed him good night. Julie and I retired to my bed, and I suspected that our experience with David caused us both to become aroused, and we had the best love-making in weeks. We even talked about dragging him in with us and making love to him, but we decided he had had enough shocks for one day. I woke around 7 and left Julie asleep to check on David. He was awake as I entered and he seemed a lot more relaxed. I was about to release his wrists when he shook his head. "No, don't release me yet, and I want you to make love to me, please." Now it was me that was taken aback. In a way, I was flattered that he found me 11 years older than him attractive. He looked at me again. "Please, and I need you." I pulled the quilt back and lifted his nightgown and slip. Slowly, I removed the tights and panties and saw his erect member spring to life. I was getting hot myself and wasted no time in climbing astride him and impaling myself on his shaft. It had been almost 6 years since I had made love with a man, but this was different. He was helpless and still with his makeup on and his hair styled. I saw him as a woman. It didn't take long before we both climaxed and I collapsed on top of him, taking hold of his head and kissing him. "Thank you, and that was beautiful. I do love you." I held him tight. "And I love you very much, but I am going to have to share you with Julie." He nodded his head. "Yes, I know, and I love Julie as well." I hugged him for a few minutes before getting off him. I released his wrists and turned as I left the room. "Put your panties back on and here's a robe. See you downstairs shortly." That's all for now. See you in the next video. Till then, take care. Oh yes, please like and subscribe to my channel. And also share your feedback, it really means a lot to me.